Well, looky here. We're going to do it again. Another edition of Coach Speak. That's Corey. That's Ira. I'm Jeff. Ben's here, too. This will be fun. It was fun last week, guys. I think people liked it. We had a good time with this, right?
Yeah. I got a lot of positive feedback at the corner pocket and everything. Everybody I saw before the game against Southern Miss was very excited about it.
And they haven't shut us down yet, so I think we still got another week in us.
Oh, let's keep going. Coaches are never not going to say stupid stuff and not be funny. And I think today we've even added a player to the list. So if you're new to this, Ira and Corey and myself, we host a show called Seminole Headlines. It is like the Jeff Cameron Show and Wake Up Warchant, wildly popular.
Right.
Probably the most popular thing we do is Seminole Headlines. It is. It's a very popular show. Anyhow, we decided to put the forces together to do what we do on our own anyhow, which is like kind of make fun of stuff that we witness in the sports world and football in particular. And so now we're doing it on film. So there you go. We're camera.
Yeah. And we, through the years, because we've been doing Seminole Headlines now for over a decade, we have people that are not even Florida State fans who tell us they listen to the show. So with this, again, we're kind of branching out, talking about other schools. So if you have friends that follow other schools, make sure to let them know about Coach Speak.
Yeah, perfect. I like it. Good introduction. There we go. All right, Ben, who's first on the docket? Let's go. What do we got? I love this.
Hey, guys, we have our first repeat guest on Coach Speak, our friend Jimbo, who had some explanations about his team's performance, a big loss against Miami. So let's see what he had to say. Let me find it here. Oh, by the way, we appreciate everyone's feedback. We had a couple people send us some video suggestions on Twitter.
Good.
Make sure you keep doing that. We'll go to Jimbo now, see what he has to say.
And they clapped. They simulated our snap count, and our guys heard the clap, and they snapped the ball. We had a whole play we had to play, like a goal line play, and what happened, the ball got snapped early because they simulated the snap count and clapped their hands and snapped the ball. I don't know, maybe we had the wrong cleats. I don't know. I mean, the middle of the field did slip, but they had the same guys we did. I know Connor did a couple times. Like, he was getting ready to throw, his feet went out from under him, and that happened. What will happen a lot of times when you play at teams that have different logos, in other words, I say multiple teams play at a sport, they change that logo out. Well, when they do that, they change that grass has to be interchanged. So that's usually done on a very quick, and then plus those stadiums that have that half, don't get the sunlight to dry out, and you had the rain, and plus, and you'll wet that part to make that grass take, and it makes that slick, and then you'll paint on the emblem. And when you have to take stadiums, and in my history of it, always do that, you'll have a lot of that, some of those issues occasionally in that situation, and that seemed to what happened.
Okay, this is all time good. Corey, I want you to start.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go to Ira, and I'll give you my thoughts on this. I think they're going to be similar, but
I don't miss it. Guys, we covered him for a long time, and he brought us a lot of fun. He brought us a lot of fun times. We got to go to cool places. They won championships. There were some great teams in there, but it's not nonsense. It's the way he communicates is nonsensical. There are words that don't connect. He says the wrong words. He doesn't finish thoughts. And then his thought there is that they had just changed out the Dolphins logo. Mm-hmm. For Miami, the Dolphins didn't play at home last week, did they? No, they were on the road.
I think he's saying, but in general, that the field it's a weird way to do a field where you're changing from a pro to a college. In his defense, that's what he's saying is from a pro to college. But
it would have been cool if he'd have said that at any time because it was a bunch of gobbledygook with just words that sort of connected.
Well, and it would have been more fair if Miami had to play on that same grass, but they apparently did not.
Well, no, that's true. They were on their they would move the game to their practice field when Miami had the ball.
The thing about Jimbo is the thing that was funny about covering Jimbo was it was more blame when things didn't go well, like execution but now we've gone to excuse making because the other team clapped their hands. That's why we false. It's like, dude.
Buddy.
They do that. Jeff, your kids played Little League football, right? Do kids simulate the snap count in Little League football?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing?
Also, I know what crowd we're talking about when it comes to pro. Is it pro-life now or is it still Joe Robbie? Whatever the name.
I don't think it's ever been pro-life.
Whatever the name. But pro-life. What a great.
That would be great.
That would be an unbelievable name for a stadium.
Yeah. Well,
sorry. I think I combined the two.
Yeah, it was pro player. You sounded like Jimbo.
But that play, I think he's talking about the 4th and 1. It wasn't a 2-point. I mean, he said it was a 2-point play. It was a 4th and 1 play where they ended up having to kick a field goal. I imagine it was pretty loud in there for whatever that place can be. You're telling me your center heard clapping when they're all screaming around you? Like he heard clapping from the other side, probably 15 yards away. And from the other side of the field, he hears a clap. It's like, it's got to be my quarterback.
But
it just snaps the ball.
Even if it was, that's
part
of
you don't say it. You don't say it out loud. Correct.
Not if you lost.
Here's my point on this. First of all, Corey, you're correct to point out I don't miss the non sequiturs. I don't miss the random piecing together.
You didn't have to transcribe it. I had to transcribe it, and it was like yeoman's work.
I had to read between the lines when I was interviewing him. I was like, I think I know where you're going with this, but okay. Yeah. So by the way, this is what he does. It's a masterful technique, but it's also the technique of a child, which is to say, you're asking me if I broke the vase. Well, what can happen with a vase, guys, is that this vase is sitting here, right? It's just sitting over here, and it's just this thing, and it's like it's not moving. You know, you don't think it's going to move or anything.
Well, and you'll see this a lot in living rooms, where they have where you have windows. You have windows and some sun comes in. Some sun comes in that doesn't normally come in.
It can blind you. It can blind you. You might not see that vase. Then you turn, and the vase ain't going to move because the vase doesn't move. And so then what you do is you bump it with your butt, and then the vase falls, and now we got a broken vase, and everybody wants to know what happened with the vase. But what happened was the vase I was blinded. So what he does is he takes it, and he goes into, like, it's the Zapruder film, right? And he's breaking this down because he doesn't want to talk about the fact that they gave up 48 points, that they got blown out. It doesn't matter that they were slapping their ass cheeks to simulate the snap count. It doesn't matter that the sun doesn't hit the logo and that it was especially you got beat by giving up 48 points, my man. But he's just 20 minutes on that.
Yeah, their linemen were better than your linemen. Their players were tougher than your players.
End of story.
We can move on. Move on to the next week, Jimbo.
But Jimbo's going to be a weekly. It seems like Jimbo's going to be a weekly
Get him in there
occurrence. We
every
can't
week,
keep
Ben.
doing this.
Get him in there every week, buddy.
We don't want to look spiteful.
It's the Titanic.
Hey, how about a little Utah coach trash talk? I'm going out of order a little bit here, but Delane Fitzgerald, he's the head coach at Southern Utah. Now, Southern Utah, I don't know what their mascot is, so I'm not even going to pretend that I do. They're coming off a 24-21 loss to Arizona State, and then the most recent game was a 41-16 loss at Brigham Young. But Coach Fitzgerald, after the game, on his coaches show, said he's concerned for the Cougars in the Big 12 after they handed him a 41-16 L.
Oh.
That needs improvement.
Yeah, we're good up front, and we've told people that we're good up front for the whole last year. We like our front seven, and they're good players. BYU's inability to run the football on us on a Saturday is a combination between us being good and them not being where they're supposed to be. I worry about them a little bit in the Big 12 with that offensive line. But because of that, they started standing there throwing the football. We got outclassed in the secondary, had some guys that weren't ready to play on Saturday the way you need to be ready to play in that atmosphere. We were too soft in coverage, and then once they caught the football, we didn't tackle as well as we needed to tackle. John, we're sitting here talking. We're 0-2 right now. We know there's things to work on, and you're right. We paid some bills with those first two guarantee games, but still expected to play more consistent. As long as the young men will keep buying in and keep coming back and working hard, we'll continue to get better.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of a coach saying that the other coach's team's not going to be after, especially if you just got drilled?
What would be the point of that? What would be the point of that? Like, there's got to be he had to have some sort of rationale for saying that, but it's not to want the BYU job, clearly. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's like, maybe he's telling the president and AD of BYU, like, look, I'd have you guys ready for the Big 12.
Maybe.
It's spiteful. It's I mean, that is like he's kind of sociopathic.
Well, it's almost like if he was like an independent analyst. Like he's in a sports talk station. Like maybe he thinks he's just breaking it down. Like I'm going to break down both teams. I'm going to objectively say they're not going to be very good in the Big 12. I mean, it's just a very weird.
It's like I worry about who he is. Like he doesn't sound like a guy any of us would want to play for. That's not, or anybody would want to play for. Period. Like
his player didn't seem to be even having a good time there in that weird coaches show setting.
Good luck, Southern Utah. Good luck.
Tough time.
I did like the Ron Burgundy cutout in the corner of the room.
And guys, as a sports talk show host for 25 years, I got to tell you, if I'm in that little room interviewing that guy after a Southern Utah game, I'm reconsidering.
Yeah. Well, he might be young. Maybe the guy's like
he's breaking in.
Yeah, he's breaking in. I mean, I don't think that was his life goal to be hosting the Southern Utah Coaches Show.
That's a toughie. Next up, Ben.
Hey, by the way, guys, that was just 6 minutes into the interview, so it lasts for about 50 minutes. So a long day in that tiny studio there.
That's a tough time, man.
I do like that my man is that accessible to the people, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, come on, I got you. I'll come in your little studio and sit down. Yeah. I had to interview Jared from Subway once, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't know, guys.
What's he up to these days?
Yeah, that's another show.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. Jeff Hafley, Boston College hapless, fearless leader. They lost to Northern Illinois in overtime in their first game of the season, and then they barely squeaked by FCS Holy Cross a week ago, 31-28. He's got Florida State and Louisville next, but he's confident about his Eagles. He feels pretty good about where they're going to go.
All right.
We will play better. And if we clean stuff up in these two games, and I will get it right. We are a good football team. This is a damn good team. And we have a penalty here, a penalty there. We keep them in the game. 2 weeks in a row, we've kept teams in the game. And it's not going to work like that. It's not. But we will clean that up, and we will win games. We're good up front. We have good skill players, and we have a good defense, and it needs to show. So I'm thrilled we won. I'm proud of the team, but that stuff is going to end. And hear me loud and clear. We are going to win games, and I cannot wait to get back to work.
Trying to convince himself, guys.
It seemed like the old SNL sketch. I like me. But it's like the thing I don't get is like that's not how he's really sounded the last couple of weeks. Like it's almost like somebody said, "Hey, dude, can you ratchet it up a little bit? You're starting to sound like Dave Aranda."
I think he knows he doesn't have long at the current position. I think time's about up. Also, it sounds like you're lecturing your child after they've done something egregious that you're not going to put up with any longer.
But who's he talking to? Because there's nobody in that room. I mean, the Boston College media has 3 people there, and 2 of them work for the school. So is he you think he's talking to the players or he's talking to himself? I think he's kind of like this is I just remember it with Willie Taggart at Florida State, always saying, "I'm going to fix it. Right. We'll get better, I promise." It's like, well, you don't. No, you didn't. You can say that all you want. It's just words. And coaches do that so often.
Yes.
They just project ahead like, I am going to fix it. We will get this right. And more often than not, they're completely wrong.
But what's weird, though, like I said, though, is I watched him because Florida State's playing Boston College. I went and watched his interviews like after that Northern Illinois game and some other interviews during preseason. And he almost, I don't know, he seemed very resigned to me. Like this isn't going to work out. And now all of a sudden it's, he's going to scream from the mountaintop that we're going to figure this out. We're going to win games. And I'm going to be excited I don't know. It's almost like I think somebody sent him a message because it was almost like he went from 0 to 10.
It's also weird. You can't sit there and tell people you're a good team. You're not a good team. You just barely beat Holy Cross. They fumbled on the 30. They're about to beat you. Stop that. You're not a good team. Don't do that. That coaches, just in general, stop doing that. We all watch you. We can see you just lost, and then you just barely beat Holy Cross. You're not a good team. Don't tell everybody you're a good team with a good front and a great defense. You're not. You're not any good at all. Don't do that.
What is that? What he should say? Look, guys, we're not any good at all. I mean, he'd be honest at least.
But he could talk realistically.
Yeah, you can just talk realistically. You don't have to go down another entire path of nonsense. Yeah. Just answer the question and move it along. There's no need to go on a diatribe about how good you are. You're not.
I think his thought is, if I'm going down, at least I'm going down, the ship's going down, I at least want to exude confidence as the ship slowly sinks into the ocean.
Sinking. It's not sinking. We're going to fix the hole on starboard side. We're going to be
great
all
ship.
right.
It's a great ship.
We're sinking. I think we're sinking. No, we're not sinking.
Yeah, it's a good ship. It's a great starboard side. We had a little adversity.
Water's coming in right now, but it's going to stop.
I will fix it. You're fine. Don't even get in the lifeboat. You're fine. Stay here.
Stay here with me. Listen to me, Prattle. Ben, fire it up. Who do we got?
Hey, I brought up Dave Aranda, our friend.
Boy.
He's had some more blunt and brutal questions at his Baylor press conferences. They looked a little better. They almost beat Utah, but that's not good enough for the reporters there at Baylor. Let's see what Dave had to say.
Talked after the Air Force game and some recruiting losses about how to keep this from spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 6 consecutive losses.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep tangibly the morale with the team where it needs to be?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think from the inside and talking to the team, they can feel the improvement. You know, I think going into the first game with Texas State, I mean, there wasn't very few people, I think, that saw that coming. And so I think that the inexperience and just the nervousness and the anxiousness got a hold of us, and we couldn't get it shook for a half, and it was too much. And defensively could never really recover. And then you look at this last game, just to attack it the way we did is what I would have wanted to expect in the first game. And so to be able to kind of narrow the focus and to continue to up the quality of the work that we do, to have the energy and the edge, but the execution to be upped, and then to increase the speed and to play faster and to play more confident. I think those are things that they feel, and they can sense that. And so it's a matter of trying to, again, eliminate the distractions and stay focused on what's right ahead of us, because I think they feel some momentum, however slight, and I understand from the outside, I totally see it, but I think they can see the improvement.
Okay, so he's my favorite coach in America.
Yeah.
And I am going to ask that on Coach Speak, no matter what he says, we have to have him on every week. There's nothing better than my man appreciating a reporter pointing out that they've lost 6 straight games.
It would have been like when Corey asked Norvell when they were 0-4, what are you telling recruits? And Norvell had been like, I appreciate that, Corey.
I appreciate that. But like he must have read that in a book somewhere, right? Or somebody told him like, hey, you're going to get when you become a head coach, you're going to get these questions. A good leader appreciates negative critique and positive critique. So tell them you appreciate it, even if it's not a question that you enjoy.
I'm gonna deploy this method with my wife when she asks me things that piss me off.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, hon.
Yeah.
And then
why aren't you home yet?
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate
where
that.
are you? I appreciate that. It's a fair question.
If she texts me and says, "Did you stop by the bar to get a beer while you're picking up our food?"
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. You need to narrow your focus.
Yeah.
I'm bringing food home. Narrow your focus.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Don't think about all the peripheral stuff.
I just like Dave Aranda to me, like he's going to be an unbelievable like self-help coach or a yoga instructor or
I don't in a movie because he kind of is a stereotype of those people. Right? Like I don't even know that he could be an actual one because he's kind of playing like a comedic bit.
Is there any chance he talk? I mean, there's no way he talks to a team like that, is there?
I hope. Well, it's not working.
Clearly, last 6 games it hasn't. I mean, he appreciates that point that you just made. He can't. Right? There's no way a football coach can lead 100 people, 100 young testosterone-filled men with that voice and those mannerisms. There just can't be. It can't be.
I feel bad that we're killing him because I think he's probably a nice guy.
Yes.
Right?
And he's been a very good coach, right? They've done good. He's been an okay coach.
He's been there.
He's been there. I mean, they've done some things with him there, but that's just
starting to go the wrong direction, though, Corey. But he appreciates you pointing that out.
But he did. I don't know if that kind of personality can right the ship, get him back on track.
Mm-mm.
I don't know that I don't know, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
He can lead a meditation.
Well, he should do that. I'm sure they do.
He can lead some meditation. I'll tell you that right now. Maybe they'll feel that positive momentum.
But I mean, you get bored. You start wanting to when he starts talking, it's just droning on and on.
It's fantastic. I want it every week on this show right here. Coach Speak, Dave Aranda. He should lead the way right after Jimbo. Actually, right after Jimbo.
It's gonna. Well, I mean, they're gonna be every week. They're gonna be stalwarts on this show.
It's beautiful. Ben, what do we got next?
Yeah, big thanks to Dave. We couldn't make this show possible without coaches like him. Mack Brown is next, and Mack Brown is tired of playing the App State Mountaineers, and he said as much after the North Carolina Tar Heels squeaked past App State again this year.
All right.
It's a great thing for the state of North Carolina to have, and I encourage NC State and East Carolina and all those people to schedule them and play them because it is a fun game. I'm proud for App State. Like I said, they got East Carolina at home next week and go to Wyoming. I mean, Sean Clark we got a difficult schedule. He's got a real difficult schedule. So, one of the problems with those type games, we play Charlotte, we play NC Central next year, is that all of the pressure is on our kids. There's no pressure on App State because nobody thinks they're going to win a game. But all the pressure's on us, and unless we win, we're awful, and it just kills you because it's a regional game.
I got to give him credit. That's fine.
You know what he did that he did so well there was he presented his real message as a joke.
Right.
But really was sending the message, look, man, hey, this makes no sense for us to play these teams.
We need to stop playing these dudes. Yeah. I'm tired of this nonsense.
And it was a home and home, right? Didn't they play App State at App State last year?
Wasn't that one of the games of the year? It was when we were playing LSU up.
Yeah, it was it was a season opener, and it was like a 1-point game or something at App State, right?
Well, it went to it was an incredible game. The kid from App State missed a wide open kid in the end zone.
I'm guessing that might have got scheduled before Mack came back to North Carolina. And, and again, that's what all these coaches, I mean, they all want to say they want to support these FCS schools or the schools in their state but none of them want to play them. Jimbo never wanted to play USF or
Jimbo
UCF.
is very unhappy about USF.
When they played USF.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, that's their, it makes sense from their standpoint.
And it's that other school's Super Bowl.
Yeah, and if you want to go get a check by playing Georgia. You're not doing it at our expense. And then, but I do think Mack is awesome, man. The best thing about Mack Brown, and it probably won't ever make it in these shows because we're talking about the press conferences, really. But the way Mack just manhandles these other head coaches,
forever grabbing them
midfield. Manny Diaz, he treated him like a 7-year-old a couple years ago, and then the other day with Shane Beamer, he grabbed him by the throat.
Yeah, See, this is where old people overstep their bounds. They think if they're old, they can just put their hands on you. I'm like,
they grew up in a different generation.
Yeah, because their dads beat the hell out of them. They think,
and they were getting grabbed by the throat and grabbed by the arm all the time.
I'm like, I'm a grown ass man.
Put your hands on me, Mac.
Mac's got that old man strength. I think he could have taken Manny and he could have taken Beamer.
I know Beamer's crazy. I think Beamer's got enough crazy in him that if that became a thing. Number one, what a great image that would be for your 38-year-old head coach to jump on the septuagenarian or whatever Mack Brown is and
awesome.
Throw him to the ground.
He's going to the next time he tries to grab somebody by the throat and gives them to listen to me, son.
Yes.
Lord. All right, Ben, what do we got?
Hey, guys, next up, Bret Bielema at Illinois. That's still weird to me to say. Okay. His team has given up 28 points in a 2-point win against Toledo, and then they surrendered 34 in a loss to Kansas in their most recent game. So that led to a reporter asking an interesting question, Bielema dismissing it and then answering it anyways.
Continue to call the defense and be the coordinator, or from an operational standpoint, is that something that's on the table for change as well?
I think that's probably the most ridiculous question you've ever asked me, but I'll answer it and be unequivocally no. He's defense coordinator. I think the part that I've been able to do through 15 years as a head coach is you just understand there's going to be transition whenever these things happen. My first year as a defense coordinator, we went from a defense that was ranked, I believe, in the 80s to number 1, and the next year we dropped considerably. Just a lot of different change in personnel, and people learn to attack your scheme and where it is. Aaron and the defensive staff are a very intelligent crew. We've met a lot before last Friday, and we met a lot afterwards, and we'll continue to grow and get better.
Okay, I got to ask you two specifically, if you're a reporter in that situation and you ask a question, Ira, I'll start with you, and the coach says, that's probably the most ridiculous question you've ever asked me. What are you thinking?
Well, here's the thing. I'm pretty much in the coaches. I'm on his side in this thing. Look, if you've got a brand new defensive coordinator and you're 2 games in, you're asking, is this guy still going to be your defensive coordinator? Are you still going to let him call plays? That seems a little excessive. I know college reporters are not as,
Polished.
abrasive. Well, they were not as abrasive as pro. Like in NFL locker rooms, NFL press conferences are going to be much different because you're always in big cities. You're in Philly or Dallas or New York, and the media, they're going after everybody every game. College media is not really like that because it's just different. You're in small towns. There's a lot of reasons.
Champaign, Illinois. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons, but 2 games in, and I know their defense was good last year. I know that because every week last season, Corey would say that Florida State needed to go and get an NIL deal for every player on Illinois' defense.
Two interior linemen.
So they were good last year, and they're not good this year. But we're going after the DC 2 games in.
So Corey, did he ask him, are you going to talk to your defensive coordinator?
No, I think he was asking.
I think he's asked about making a change.
Yeah,
which is yes.
You can still let that guy call plays.
I would have liked it honestly if Bielema had been like, "Look, I appreciate that. I appreciate that question. Clearly, after 2 games, it would be a great message to my fans, my team, and my bosses if I just made a change. That would make me look like a real stable leader to just after 2 games be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Like Billy Martin back in the 80s with Yankees managers. I didn't realize the context of what was going on until you guys just talked about it. I am blaming that more on the reporter. You can't. I get after like 9 games. Like, are you thinking about in the offseason making a change? 2 games in, we're in the middle of September, and he's a first-year coordinator.
He was promoted. I just looked it up. He was promoted at the end of last season, so he was on the staff, got promoted. So I think it's fair to wonder, hey, is this guy ready to be defensive coordinator? But to ask that right away. But I love that Bielema, who I don't really know. I don't know if he's a good guy to deal with or not, but the fact that he said it's the most ridiculous question ever and then still answered it is amazing. Usually they would just move on.
I like that he first wanted to acknowledge this is the most ridiculous question you've ever asked me.
But then gave a real answer.
Now I'm going to answer it, but that's ridiculous.
Because I'm a professional. I'm a professional.
Sorry ass question you just asked me, but I'll answer it. By the way, in a weird way, and I don't know if the reporter knows this, but by asking that question, you're actually taking a shot at Bret Bielema. Because Bret Bielema is a defensive coach, and he is known as a defensive mind. So Bret Bielema is in control of this defense, not the coordinator.
Right, and I guess what he was, I guess what he was kind of asking is like, would you take it over from that guy since you're a defense? But yeah, the whole thing's just kind of crazy. But it might be fun to monitor that relationship as the season goes on.
Also, by the way, on Coach Speak, we can uplift coaches who say great things, and we can tear them down for saying dumb things. Bielema gets a star this week. Good job, Brett. Good job, Brett. All right, Ben, what do we got?
Hey, guys, some people were disappointed that we didn't have Dabo on last week's show, so we had to throw him in this week. We know he has a disdain for the transfer portal, and he talked about that on his most recent coaches show.
Going to be criticism, especially when you have success, but which is good because people care. That's fine, but you have to. I mean, we're not sitting here today. I'd have been long gone a long time ago if I ran this program the way everybody else wanted me to run it. I wouldn't be sitting here. At the end of the day, you have to have conviction in what you believe as a leader, and understand some people are going to like you, some people are not going to like you, and some people are going to believe in what you want to do, some people aren't, and that just comes with it. But at the end of the day, you've got to do things with the way you believe. And, we have a process that we believe in, and if I was somewhere else, my process would probably be different. But we have a established culture. And listen, here's his head coach. Let me tell you, I've seen a lot of so-called, hot coaches that are the greatest thing ever, and hot teams that have a great moment and a great year, and then a couple of years later, they're long gone. You never hear from them again. And we've just kept on keeping on around here.
Kept on keeping on around here. He does know how to play to his audience.
The thing about Dabo is I get it, and in some cases that's true. Like, you can't just jump on just because it works. Something works for one team in 1 minute, okay. But there's pretty overwhelming evidence at this point that the transfer portal helps. I mean, look across the sport. Alabama does it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Has Georgia done it at all?
Yeah. They took Clemson's best cornerback a couple years ago when they won the national championship. They're one of their receivers this year's was Missouri's best receiver.
Correct. Dabo has a pattern that is fun to monitor, and that is whenever he receives criticism, the first thing he does to refute it is acknowledge how great he's been. So what he does to start every answer is we've had some success around here.
Well, he does it that way too. It's humble.
Oh, yeah, it's a humble brag.
Yeah.
But it's not humble because he's not. And that's why it's beautiful, because it's disguised. He just thinks you're dumb. So he's going to start every answer with, now, I don't know if you know, but we've had some success around here. And, if I was just going to do whatever, because it's always that. It's always that.
I don't think it's because he thinks you're dumb. I think he doesn't like the prospect of Clemson fans being ungrateful, which they might seem to be. Like they aren't as good as they were, clearly, as they were 4 years ago. So he wants people to remember, man, I gave you all this.
That's the problem, man. And that's the problem.
No, I got it, but that's what he's doing is I gave you all this.
No, and to your point, I mean, just talking to some of the media that cover Clemson closer than we do during the summer, there was a sentiment from a lot of them and he's been hard to deal with. He's becoming more and more difficult to deal with because of that stuff. And there's a lot of people kind of waiting for things. And just like, look, man, when we covered Jimbo, just towards the end, there were a lot of people, the knives were out waiting for things to go south. And once they did, everybody pounced. And I think that's probably going to happen.
You kind of get it. I know this isn't a serious show, and we're not really supposed to talk about Dabo so much, but you kind of get it in the sense that what he did worked for a decade. More than he took a team, quite honestly, Clemson had been irrelevant for 30 years, at least 25 years, and took them to be Alabama, either 1 or 1A, the best program in the United States for a decade. So you get how he loves the way he did it, and he wants to hold on to that because he knows that works.
But the sport fundamentally
changed. The landscape has changed, and he hasn't changed with it. And every time they lose, which will probably be more and more, you think, as this season goes on and next season too, it's going to be more and more contentious, I think.
You also can't be incredulous that you're being asked questions about losses because you have set a new standard by which you're judged, and that's okay. You're not a victim of that. Stop doing that. And this guy's so deeply religious. Why doesn't he think about pride before the fall, right? I mean, every time he answers one of these questions, he's indignant. That's what that is. He doesn't think that you should ask him about this program that he, as you pointed out, Corey, built into a monster. He thinks it's beneath him to have to answer.
He has all the answers, so you shouldn't be able to ask any questions.
I would also say this. There's got to be better Dabo clips. Next week, if we're going to have a weekly Dabo segment too.
I don't think we are.
Okay. I was going to say, because there's some stuff out there that he's saying that would make us all laugh.
You could do it for days. I mean, just anyone.
Well, yeah, hey, we got
Monitor him closely, Ben. Monitor him closely.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
Next up is a coach that I think you guys have had experience with before with interesting analogies. He came out with another one at Arizona State this past week. So Kenny Dillingham, let's hear it.
And boo.
It has nothing to do with the quarterback. I mean, this is a unit that we got to figure out. It's the best combination of a unit. I mean, what is that really expensive thing that people put on fries? I'm spacing on it. Yeah, truffle, right? My wife always talks about it, right? Truffle's elite, but you can't put truffle in everything. Nope. So you've got to find a way you may have an elite guy at some place, but the truffle may not make it better because the recipe is different now because you don't have these other ingredients. So even though you have truffle there, you may not be able to use it if all the other ingredients are here. So sorry for the weird comparison. We were just eating the other night, and that's when my wife talked about, those fries are expensive because it's truffle, right? But I think that's the best way to explain offense and defense in football is everybody wants to treat it as it's one person or it's one this. No, it's a recipe of success. And one person may be so great at all these things, but because you don't have these other things at your arsenal now, this person may not be as successful with this current recipe. And you've got to be able to adapt to what you have and then be as successful as possible with it.
What's going on in the Dillingham family where his wife would have to point out to him that they're eating expensive fries? Like what? So when you're having dinner the other night and your wife's like, "Do you understand how expensive these fries? What's going on?"
He wasn't eating all his fries, and he only makes like $3 million a year or something.
How did that come up? Can you imagine if you're a wife? If
I mean, look, man.
Do you understand how expensive these fries are?
I like Kenny. Kenny, for the people
We
that
all
don't
like
know,
Kenny. We all
was
like
the
Kenny.
OC at
Yeah.
Florida State for a couple years under Norvell. I don't know that he's the most worldly guy. I think his history with fries is McDonald's or Wendy's, and they don't have truffle there. By the way, I would argue this: McDonald's fries are better than anything with truffle.
Hey, truffle.
So explain that to me, Kenny. That should have been part of the comparison with you got McDonald's here and you got truffle here and you go back and forth with the truffle. I like that he also said after that nonsense for 30 seconds about truffle, he goes, and that's the best way to explain offenses. It's like, nope, it isn't at all. You can do better. Take
You
two.
got ingredients over here, but then you have this thing over here, and that's you see what I'm saying? No, I don't. I don't see what you're saying.
Yeah, he hit us with, and I like Kenny a lot too. And he hit us back in the day with the bamboo analogy,
Which was awesome.
Which was great. And it was, and like, people, that is a real like thing. Like people will talk about that.
Yeah.
That you have to take 10 different years or whatever. And then all of a sudden but it was just so funny the way he does it. And it seems, I don't know, like coaches have to figure out a way to communicate, but I don't understand how putting truffle on a quarterback is going to make you any better or not better.
Not everything has to be an analogy.
Yeah.
You can also, Kenny, what's going on with you and your wife? That's just a weird dinner table conversation.
I think she's more worldly. Number one, I bet they were out at a restaurant, and I think she's just a little more worldly.
Do you know how expensive these fries are?
I can tell you this. I think if he asked that question to the Florida State media, we'd still be sitting there wondering what he was talking about, because I wouldn't have said truffle. That would have never come up. I'd have been like, oh, bacon? You had bacon to fries or cheese?
Like stuff you put on fries? Cheese?
Melted cheese? Yeah. Okay.
It's Arizona, buddy. It's Arizona. They're a little classier out there.
I guess.
Ben, what do we got next?
We've got one more good coaching analogy, and then we'll close out with a player.
Nice.
Well, I say good coaching analogy. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide.
Mack Brown, Associated Press. You opened this up with the numbers and the celebrities who've showed up and the alumni and all the great things that are happening. I mean, Colorado's the center of the football universe right now. Do you take time to just soak it in and enjoy the moment a little bit?
No, not really. I don't have time to enjoy the moment. Santa don't have time. He got to deliver the gifts. He ain't got time to enjoy his cookies. Okay, that's all he gets. I ain't got time for that. I got to keep it going. I got to keep this machine going and make sure we stay on the right path and make sure we're locked in and we're focused on the right things. Make sure we're practicing adequately. Make sure we're giving it our all. Making sure we're making the right adjustments and playing the proper personnel. So it's a lot. It's a lot driving this train.
Oh, my
God. Santa.
What's cool about that is, remember he had the Nike commercial where he was Sanders Claus?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I thought he was going to say, is Sanders Claus doesn't have – he was going to harken back to 30 years ago when Dennis Leary was doing the Nike commercials.
You could ask him if it's too bright in there.
Well, look.
Let's ask him that next week. Is it
Deion's
too
a
bright
vibe. Deion's his own vibe. But I like that. I guess that's an analogy. Santa, I mean, I feel like Santa kind of takes it easy for 364 days and then just busts his ass for one day while all the elves do all the work.
But did he say Santa doesn't time to appreciate the gifts? Like he doesn't get the gifts.
No.
Like Santa,
nothing about the analogy makes sense.
Well, he did mention the cookies.
He mentioned the cookies.
He said that Santa doesn't get time to really enjoy the cookies. I'll tell you what, though, my kids, they think Santa enjoyed the cookies because every time they left out cookies, no matter how many cookies they left out, those cookies got eaten.
You can enjoy cookies on the run.
Yeah, you're flying. You got another house. You got another continent to go to.
You're getting on the sleigh. Just put the cookies in your mouth and enjoy the cookies while you're flying to the next place.
Throw some to Donder and Dander and Prancer or whoever.
Donder was the best reindeer besides
truffle on the
Rudolph.
cookie, and we're all set.
Oh, truffle cookies.
Truffle cookie, buddy. You see me working?
I just, again, like, I get it's a soundbite, but Santa only works one day. He's not busting his ass year round, so it doesn't fit the question.
And it's supernatural. Like, it's crazy that he's got a sled with reindeers flying.
But he's also got free elf labor. Right. He doesn't pay them anything but candy canes. there's no NIL deal. They're not doing a documentary following one of those elves so he can get to be a millionaire.
And again, you can eat cookies on the run and enjoy them.
Well,
I've driven down the road eating cookies before and enjoyed.
Look, Deion will make a lot of good points. He's obviously doing something out there in Boulder because they're much better than they've been in a long time. But we got to have a better answer next time, man.
Hey, guys, so while Deion Sanders was talking about Santa, his next opponent was being kind of a Scrooge. Let's see what Jay Norvell said on his coach's show last night. You guys are going to like this.
He had to do a bunch of ESPN videos, and it was great. I loved it. But our kids came out of those videos really with a chip on their shoulder. They're tired of all that stuff. They really are tired of it. And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So, they're not going to like us no matter what we say or do. It doesn't matter, okay? So let's go up there and play. And so that's just how I feel about it. Yeah. And so I don't mean to take over the show, but
it's your show.
I'm just tired of I'm tired of all that stuff. It's just and I know everybody else is too. So let's go play. And we got a bunch of good kids. I told our team there's not another group of kids I'd like to go to Boulder with. So we're excited.
Here's your problem. I mean, even if you think it, and a lot of people do. And I even made a joke about it just a moment ago. I was like, ask Deion if it's too bright in there. Everybody sees him, the kind of the mockery and all that. But, my man, your team's terrible. Yeah. And you're just going to give him another reason to do more of the very thing that you're ripping.
I think he's right, though, on the one thing. He said they're going to hate us. They're not going to like us anyway, because that was the thing. Like last week before the Nebraska game, Matt Rule had a press conference where he was just dripping with sweetness about he loved Deion. He loved their staff. He couldn't believe how they were so experienced and they're so talented and couldn't say enough things. And then after the game, Deion and his Shador, they just killed him and said that he trashed them and it was personal. I guess he said something months ago that they took as a slight towards nothing like this. So I get where he's coming from. Like, they're going to find a reason to call it personal anyway. So maybe give him a reason.
No. You know that's not smart, Ira. You know that's not smart. Like, they could have snuck into Boulder, played the role of the underdog, and only lost by a couple touchdowns, maybe. But Deion is – number one, you made Deion a martyr, which nobody wants.
That's what I'm saying. You just made Deion a martyr, right?
But also, like, holy moly, he's going to want to beat you by 50, and all his players who love him are going to want to beat you by 50 because they don't care. Travis Hunter doesn't know Colorado State's nickname. But now, you know what I mean? None of those players care about Colorado State. Well, they do now. They do now, dog. Like, awesome. You made 20 people in whatever bar you're in doing the Colorado State coach show laugh. And now you're about to get beat by 70 points.
It is interesting. I would love to know the psychology behind it because, look, man, Jay Norvell or Norvell, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, but he was a receivers coach at Oklahoma. I think he's been a big time college football program. So it's not like he's just some young hotshot coach. So I'm sure it probably irritates him a little bit that Deion's able to kind of get all of this attention. But yeah, I don't know. He might be writing a check that his team can't cash.
The thing I lament, I'm being selfish here. I just hate that what he's done is ensure that we're going to have to listen to Deion say a bunch of dumbass things after the game about that thing. When they win by 40, he's going to use it as a jumping off point about how they do things differently here. And I'm different. Prime's different. Oh, here we go. It's going to be about Prime again, over and over and over again. He just gave him another angle. Don't do it.
Yeah, the guy when Deion's last game at Jackson State, when they lost in the championship game, the guy and the other coach did all this talking after the game. After he had won. Yeah, this guy's 23-point underdog. So it's
not going to win. Maybe he figures they're going to get their ass beat anyhow. He's just putting it out there. Doesn't make a difference. I mean, we're going to get smoked anyhow. We don't have a team.
There's always the chance that Deion might be like magnanimous and like above the fray, just stay above the fray and not even comment on it. There's a chance, right? Maybe
he's gonna come into the press conference after the game with like 4 pairs of sunglasses and just take one off, take another.
Ira, don't you give me any ideas too? He's scouring the internet for reasons to feel slighted. Don't do it.
Yes, he is.
Don't do it. And with that, I think we'll wrap.